Welcome back to Melanie On Demand. This is the continuation of my video series called Canada Study Permit Application. In the previous episode, we learned how to estimate our CRS score using the CRS tool or CRS Calculator. In today's video, we will examine closely the comprehensive ranking system criteria, and we will look into each factor that will increase or decrease your CRS score. Also, I prepared different scenarios with corresponding CRS points for you to be able to understand how each factors affect your success in this pathway. So be ready to take down notes and let's strategize using CRS Calculator. Let's begin. I want to start by thanking you guys. Maraming salamat po for your overwhelming support. I receive a lot of comments saying that after they watch my video, they were inspired by our journey and they can't wait to start their own adventure here in Canada. Also, I receive a lot of comments appreciating my videos, saying that they are informative with plenty of valuable information for their application. I do appreciate your comments and I hope that you'll share this information to your family and friends who need it as well. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. I am Melanie and I'm here to share with you my journey to success from being an international student to permanent residents of Canada using the student to PR pathway of immigration. I make new videos every week, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit the bell button for notifications. CRS score can simply be calculated using the CRS tool or CRS Calculator. I salute Canada Immigration for creating this calculator for applicants because it is very user-friendly and all the important details are very easy to understand. And you as an applicant, you should take advantage of this CRS tool. And lucky you, in today's video, I will guide you with that. Let's plan your success using the CRS calculator. To follow along with our discussion for today, I highly suggest that you watch my previous video about CRS score calculation. We are going to continue using the profile of our applicant Charlie. From our calculation, his CRS score is 441. Now, let's examine the factors affecting Charlie's CRS score, and also let's look at different scenarios that might increase or decrease his chance of getting an ITA. Using your web browser, search for CRS Criteria. This is the page that we want, so click it. The results that you will get with the CRS calculator can be best interpreted using this page, CRS Criteria Express Entry. Here, you will see how the CRS calculator interprets your answer and convert it to points. And because this resource is available to you, nothing should come as a surprise when it comes to your CRS score, because all of the details can be found here. This is actually a good thing, and you can use it to your advantage. You can use it to build your strategy for your PR application. The way I see it, the CRS score is governed by 5 main categories, namely age, next, foreign education. That's your highest education level attained outside Canada. Then, foreign skilled work experience. That's your skilled work experience under NOC 0, A, or B outside Canada. Then, language proficiency for English and French. And finally, Canadian adaptability factors such as Canadian work experience, education in Canada, arranged employment or valid job offer, relatives in Canada, and provincial nomination. Some of these factors you can control. Some of this you cannot. Each of these factors are used in the calculation of your CRS score. Some of these are used once, but some are used multiple times, like the work experience, education, and language proficiency. So improving these factors can positively affect your CRS score. Let's look closely at each one of them. For age, there's no way to improve your score, but you can minimize the negative impact by starting your application as soon as possible. 20 to 29 years old is the prime age for immigration here in Canada. With a perfect score of 110 for single applicant and 100 if you're applying with a spouse, that's a big chunk of your CRS score. The moment you became 30, the points will start dropping, as you can see here. That means that the later you apply, the lesser you get for the age factor. You will stop getting points once you reach the age of 45. It doesn't mean that you are disqualified from express entry if you are 45 years old and above. It only means that you cannot get points for that factor. However, if you are in that age range, I want you to manage your expectations. Since you already lost a big chunk of your CRS score, you are already behind most of the candidates. But it is not a hopeless case though. There are still ways to drastically increase your CRS score. Let's look at the other factors. Next, foreign education. This is referring to your highest education level attained outside Canada. If you have a doctoral degree, you will get a perfect score here. But I believe most of us don't, but it's okay. If you have at least a bachelor's degree, your score will not be that low for this factor. You can choose to improve your CRS score by getting a higher education outside Canada. For example, from bachelor to master's degree, but in my opinion, that will not do much for your PR application. Yes, it will increase your CRS score, but that's pretty much it. Imagine if you are in your 30s or 40s and you studied for 2 years to get that master's degree outside Canada. Yes, you'll get plus points for education, but you'll get minus points for age, and then that's it. You're stuck with your low CRS score with no other options to immigrate. That's why most matured students take the student to PR pathway of immigration, because it is a more aggressive approach. Studying in Canada will not only increase your CRS score, but it will also open several pathways to PR. I will discuss more about that later. Next, foreign skilled work experience. If you have completed 3 years of skilled work outside Canada, you pretty much maxed out your points here. No additional points will be awarded for 4 years or more of foreign skilled work experience. But if you haven't completed 3 years of foreign work experience, continue working for that skilled job while you're applying in Canada, because there's a great advantage to that. As you can see here, CRS score increase if you have 1, 2, or 3 years of foreign work experience. The goal is to reach at least 3 years of foreign skilled work experience to get the maximum points for this factor. Then, language proficiency. Canada's main languages are English and French. If you are fluent in both, that's an advantage. But if you only know English, that's still okay. You have to prove your English proficiency either by IELTS or CELPIP General Module. CELPIP means Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program. It is designed specifically for Canada immigration, so the grade that you will get for this test will be according to Canadian Language Benchmark Level, or CLB level. On the other hand, IELTS, or International English Language Testing System, is the world's most popular English language proficiency test and is widely used globally, not just in Canada. They have their own marking system known as the IELTS band score. To illustrate clearly, here is a comparison between the marking systems of the two tests. If you took CELPIP, your score will be in terms of CLB level, and the highest score possible is CLB 12. For IELTS, it will be in terms of IELTS band score, and the highest level is band 9. Here is a side-by-side example of the two test reports. So the grade here in CELPIP is in terms of CLB level, while here in IELTS, it's by IELTS band score. CLB level is by a factor of 1. So 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, while IELTS have a half point mark, 0.5, for each band score. So you can get like 8.5, 7.5, or 6.5. Now, how does this scores relate to your CRS score? Going back to the CRS criteria, you can see here that the point system is in terms of CLB level per ability. Meaning, just looking at this table, you can directly calculate your score if you took CELPIP test because the grade is in terms of CLB level. However, if you took IELTS, you have to go to this website called Language Equivalency Charts. So click it here. Now, since IELTS is accredited by Express Entry, there's a conversion factor from your IELTS score to CLB level. For example, in IELTS, you get a score of reading 7.0, writing 7.0, listening 8.0, and speaking 7.0. That is equivalent to CLB 9. And that's how your IELTS score is determined for your CRS score. So going back to our reports here, the main idea is the grade of CLB 8 in CELPIP is not the same as the band score 8.0 in IELTS. You have to use the language equivalency chart to do the conversion for your IELTS score to convert it to CLB level. Let's try to use this chart. In this case, if IELTS speaking band score is 8.0, what will be the CLB level for that? So here's the speaking part. IELTS band score 7.5 is already CLB 10, meaning IELTS band score of 8.0 is even higher than CLB 10. There is CLB 11 and CLB 12, but the maximum points awarded for each language test skill is the same if you get CLB 10, 11, or 12. So, IELTS speaking band score of 8.0 will be considered as CLB 10 for CRS score calculation. Lucky us, we do not need to worry about that when we are calculating our CRS score. Thanks to the CRS Calculator, you just need to choose IELTS as your English test and it will automatically convert your score to CLB and will award points accordingly. See how cool the CRS Calculator is. If you're still outside Canada, language proficiency is your best bet to improve your CRS score. If we go back to this page and search for language, you will see how many times it was used in the calculation of your CRS score. And because there's no restriction in the number of times you can take the language test, well, aside from money, you can sit in an exam as many times as you want until you get your target score. Later in this video, I will demonstrate how this factor can greatly affect your CRS score, both positively and negatively. And finally, Canadian adaptability factors. This includes the following: Canadian work experience, education in Canada, arranged employment or valid job offer, relatives in Canada, and provincial nomination. For relatives, you can either have relatives in Canada or you don't, so there's nothing much you can do here. For provincial nomination, you need to apply to a province or territory in order to be qualified as a nominee. This is a different application altogether. Once you get a nomination, you can surely get an invitation to apply for PR. Canadian work experience. Minimum of 1 year skilled work experience in Canada is what you need to improve your CRS score. And this factor is interlaced with the next two: arranged employment and education in Canada. Let's look at arranged employment or valid job offer. Yes, this could be a golden ticket to Canada. When you get a job offer, you get more points. If that isn't enough to bump your CRS score to the cutoff, you can work for 1 year and then you can get enough Canadian work experience, which will drastically increase your score. However, nowadays, it is very tough to find an employer if you are still outside Canada. But still, there's no harm in trying, so just continue applying. Next, education in Canada. This is another way to get more points. Remember earlier when I said that improving your foreign education isn't aggressive enough? Well, studying in Canada is a much better option for you because once you finish your program, the floodgates of extra CRS points will open for you. Aside from the points that you will get for your education in Canada, studying here is your key to get a Canadian work experience because you will be eligible for postgraduate work permit. You can also qualify to some provincial nominee programs dedicated for international students. And because you studied in Canada and spoke mostly English every day, I bet you your English test score will improve as well. That's why those with low CRS scores choose to study in Canada and gain Canadian work experience to bump their CRS scores to get ITA. This is a proven strategy. I have done it myself and many others too. Now, let's go back to Charlie's CRS score. Let's manipulate the situation in order to see how the CRS score changes for each factor. For easier reference, I've already created a neat table to summarize all the factors, and also I calculated the CRS score for each scenario. Scenario A is what we just calculated a while ago. His CRS score is 441. He is qualified for foreign skilled worker stream in express entry, but he has a low chance to get an invitation to apply even if his English score is very good. By the way, there is a different calculation process to check if you will be qualified for FSW stream in EE. In Charlie's case, he is qualified. His score is more than 67 points. If you are not qualified to any of the EE streams, namely Federal Skilled Worker, Canadian Experience Class, or Federal Skilled Trade, you will not be eligible to create your Express Entry profile. I will not be covering the calculation process in this video, but I posted the link in the description below for more information. Next, Scenario B. So here, Charlie tried to search for an employer through job sites like Canada Job Bank, and luckily he was able to find an employer who is willing to support his application. And he will be working for a skilled job still as an IT analyst, NOC A2171. So he will get an additional 50 points for that and will increase his score to 491. So now his score is enough to meet the cutoff and his chance of getting an ITA is very high. This is a success story right here. Charlie do not need to take the study to PR pathway anymore to become a permanent resident here in Canada because he has enough points to get an ITA. But the truth is, it is very hard to find an employer that will support your application if you are currently outside Canada. Agencies sometimes help with finding employers, but be very careful in trusting the agency before paying them any amount of money. If an agency presented a job offer to you that is too good to be true, chances are it is fake. Do a proper research to avoid getting scammed. Let's look at Scenario C. For this scenario, I lowered the English test results quite a bit to make it more realistic and relatable. Honestly, if English is not your mother tongue or it is your second language, it is quite hard to get the scores in scenarios A and B. So I brought it down to 7, 7, 7, 6.5. Also, I changed the job offer back to none. See how the core human capital factors dropped by 34 points just because of English test score. And there's no additional points because there's no job offer. Charlie's grand total now is only 370 points, which is very unlikely to get an ITA. Mind you, this is a very common score for most EE applicants. Also, he is not qualified for FSW at this point because his score is lower than 67 points, still because of the language score. Now that we've seen how the language test score affected the CRS points, let's look at the age factor. Here in scenario D, I kept the realistic IELTS score and changed Charlie's age to 33 years old, which is 5 years later. As you can see, the core human capital factors drop again, now by 22 points. So, like most of us, Charlie decided later in his life to apply to Canada. So, he lost the valuable 22 points. His CRS score dropped to 348, which is even lower than scenario C, very unlikely to get an ITA. He is still not qualified for FSW. Now with scenario D as Charlie's starting point, he decided to continue the study to PR pathway for immigration. He took a 2-year diploma program and was able to finish it. 2 years later, Charlie's situation is like scenario E, assuming that his English test didn't change. Take note that in real life, English test report expires after 2 years, so this is just an example to simplify our situation. After 2 years, he is already 35 years old. Then for the education, instead of just bachelor's degree like before, now he has 2 or more diploma, one for the home country and another one for his Canadian education. Here, so we choose 2-year diploma. After this update, you'll see here that overall, Charlie's CRS score increased by 24 points. That's a drop of 3 points for the core human capital factors, but an increase of 12 points for skills transferability factors and increase of 15 points for additional factors. And now he is qualified for Federal Skilled Worker Stream in EE. These are all because he studied a 2-year diploma in Canada. However, his CRS score is not enough to be invited for PR because the cutoff is around 476 points. But Charlie does not need to worry because after studying for 2 years, he is eligible for postgraduate work permit for 3 years, meaning he can work for any employer in Canada for 3 years. This is enough time for him to gain the Canadian experience that he needs to increase his CRS score. Here in scenario F, it is very similar to scenario E, but now Charlie is 36 years old, 1 year older, but he has 1 year of skilled Canadian work experience under his belt. Look how dramatic his CRS score increased because of his Canadian work experience. For core human capital factors, it's up by 35 points and 50 points for skill transferability, giving an overall increment of 85 points that bumped his CRS score to 457. Now, Charlie is qualified in another stream of express entry called CEC or Canadian Experience class. He also has a better chance of being invited for PR because, as what we have discussed before, EE draw can be program specific. If 457 is higher than the cutoff for CEC draw, he will get an ITA. Now, Charlie has 3 choices as seen here. 1. CEC pathway. Passively wait for the express entry draw. If 457 won't make it to the cutoff, continue for another year of Canadian work experience, so total 2 years, to get more CRS points. Second, provincial nominee program. Search and apply for provincial nominee stream that's applicable for him. Third, score higher in the language test. Improve IELTS score to get a better CRS score. This is the fastest way but will require effort for preparation. In the previous scenario, we have seen the negative effect of language tests, but mind you, language tests can also positively affect your score, especially when you need it most. In scenario G, Charlie decided to retake the IELTS and he got slightly better scores. Up by 0.5 mark for speaking and writing, then up by 1.0 mark for listening and reading. Not perfect scores, but the scores are enough to increase his overall CRS score by 28 points, giving him a better CRS score of 485. This is high enough to meet the CRS cutoff, and he has a very good chance of getting an ITA. Let's look at one more scenario that is also applicable for international students. For most provinces, they offer special provincial nominee streams for international students or temporary foreign workers residing in their province. If you've watched my timeline videos, you'll know that this is the pathway that I took. I was a nominee for Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program or AINP EE stream. That is plus 600 points to our CRS score. Here in scenario H, Charlie got a provincial nomination and his score shoot up to 1057. No doubt he will get invited for PR at this stage. For me, this is the best way and probably the fastest way to get to PR if your CRS score is in the low 300s. Maybe your English score isn't that great, or maybe you're older. Sometimes education in Canada and 1 year work experience aren't enough to lift your score up to the cutoff. But PNP for sure, it is enough. So make sure you do your homework and search for the PNP program that will best suit your situation. I received quite a number of questions about taking just 1 year program in Canada and their chances for PR. Again, I'm not a licensed immigration consultant, so don't take my word as a legal advice. What I can do is show you a scenario for this and you decide if it will apply to your situation. So here in scenario A, Charlie is close to the cutoff because his score is 441. So if he studied for a year in Canada, his score will increase by 48 points as seen here. He will end up with 489 points, which is enough for him to reach the CRS cutoff. And also, Charlie will receive 1 year postgraduate work permit, which will give him a valid status in Canada while he is processing his PR application. In my opinion, in this case, it will be safe if you take a 1 year program here in Canada. However, going back to the scenarios D and E, if your CRS score is at the low 300s, even 2 year program is not enough to bring your score up. So it is very risky to take a 1 year program. Of course, when I say risky, it doesn't mean it is impossible. I may have overlooked other strategies, and mind you, there are lots of them, but I want to stress out that you have to make a realistic and solid plan before pursuing a 1 year program. Studying in Canada is very expensive, so make sure you get your money's worth. So as you can see from these scenarios, it is really possible to get your Canadian PR dream using the student to PR pathway. Even if your CRS score is in the low 300s, maybe because of your age or language or any other factors, there are options for you. You just need to plan properly and execute. Some people will get their PR status faster, some will get it later, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's possible. Just keep on going. If you've managed to reach this far, thank you very much for sticking around. Please give this video a like if you learned from it. And if you have questions for me, please type it in the comment section below. Again, I want to remind you that I'm not an immigration consultant and I cannot legally advise you for your situation. All the things that we have discussed here, it's only for information purposes. And if you need help for your application, please consult a professional for that. Thank you very much for watching. This is Melanie On Demand. See you on my next episode. Bye!